Just a side note, you know how the so-called elite love a play on words when they call them astronauts, because they've never been in space. That's why they're called astronauts. This is how the elite love to mock all those that believe that somehow these phonies can get into space. What exactly do rockets push against in the vacuum of space? Rockets never been in space. Period. When you see a rocket launch, you always see it go at an angle towards the ocean. All it does is crash back into the ocean. You'll never see that full footage. That's why you see the Kennedy Space Center, for example, right next to the ocean. Exactly like you see in this image here, with this huge arch. Again, nothing more than a rocket that launches and comes back down to Earth. And there are plenty of images of this on Google Images. You can take a look for yourself. I'm not going to show them all here. And someone asked, what about the shuttle landings? I saw it on TV. Very easy to explain. It's just like watching a movie where pieces are edited together. When it's time for the supposed return of the space shuttle from outer space, all they do is have a so-called space shuttle, which is nothing more than an airplane, come in for a landing, as shown on TV. And I'll demonstrate that again for the new viewers. And just for reference, for anybody that hasn't seen my previous videos exposing the space shuttles being nothing more than airplanes, let's first take a look at these supposed space shuttles. Look at these wings. You think these wings will help this supposedly 80-ton space shuttle come in for a glide landing with no engines? This thing would fall out of the sky like a rock. No way this is a space shuttle. Now, to confirm what NASA even states, this is the text from their website, a glider is a special kind of aircraft that has no engine. The space shuttle flies as a glider during re-entry and landing. During ascent, that's of course the initial flight, thrust is provided by 3 space shuttle main engines at the base of the orbiter and the 2 solid rocket boosters that are joined to the orange external fuel tank. Of course, orange for 33. The solids are jettisoned about 2 minutes into ascent, and the fuel tank is jettisoned as the shuttle enters Earth's orbit. So there are no propellants available to the SSMEs during descent. So make that clear. There's no propellants. Though the engines are still present, the shuttle returns as an unpowered glider. Now, before showing the footage, like I stated, this is no space shuttle. This is an airplane, and here is your jet engines. Now let's take a look at this footage with the supposed landing of the space shuttle. Again, nothing but an airplane coming in for a landing at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. I'm going to play this footage and break it down a bit. Then I'm going to play the footage again uninterrupted. Show again, this is nothing more than an airplane. I'm going to also mention here during the playing of the video, there's going to be a plane in the distance. And you're going to tell this is way too far to be the jet engines from that plane. It's clearly from the supposed space shuttle. Take a look and take a close listen. Now first off, look at the elevation that you have here. It's coming in for the landing. No way a glider could be that low and maintain this level throughout if it's a glider. Now here are the engines.
There's a shuttle.
One thing I want to point out, here is a supposed chase plane, which is in the very far distance. Let's take a look and listen at the rest of the landing of this airplane. And also, again, if you think it's this plane in the back, the supposed chaser plane, you are completely deceived, completely deluded, stuck on the line, and you can't get out of it. Take a look and listen.
Touchdown. Touchdown.
Talking about frauds, getting back to Mark Kelly, the astronaut. Here he is with another fraud, Gabriella Giffords. Let's take a look at this image of Gabriella Giffords speaking about gun control. You can clearly see this is not the same woman. This is an actor, an actress taking her spot. Clearly see it's not the same person. Wearing orange, of course, 33 in Freemasonry. Just look at these two here. Two frauds married to each other. A match made in hell. And talking about frauds, let's listen to the rest of Chris Hadfield's interview on BBC where he goofs up. He talks about eventually going to the moon and beyond. It's a little bit over a minute long, almost 2 minutes actually. Take a listen at this fraud, just like Mark Kelly, just like Buzz Aldrin. All of these supposed astronauts are all Freemasons, all liars, deceiving the public. This is what Masonry is all about, deception. Take a listen.
How important is the engineering, the fact that we've learned to build such a large structure in Earth orbit? It's sort of as if, you know, when a little kid is sailing their sailboat in a pond remotely, at some point that then person starts to sail a sailboat up and down the coast, and then they invent and learn and study and figure out all the things they need to do so that maybe then someday they can actually sail out of sight of land. And the station has been orbiting the Earth as if we're sort of sailing within sight of land as we invent. I mean, what do you make the hull out of? How do you navigate? What food do you need? How do you make a toilet that'll work forever? How do you recycle water? How do you recycle the oxygen? It's the main crucible test bed where we've been trying to grind out all the lessons that will eventually let us go to the moon. It's the main crucible test bed where we've been trying to grind out all the lessons that will eventually let us go to the moon, that will eventually let us go to the moon, and even that will eventually let us go to the moon and even further away. Where we've been trying to grind out all the lessons that will eventually let us go to the moon, main crucible test bed where we've been trying to grind out all the lessons that will eventually let us go to the moon and even eventually let us go to the moon. We've been trying to grind out all the lessons that will eventually let us go to the moon, where we've been trying to grind out all the lessons that will eventually let us go to the moon, eventually let us go to the moon.
Astronauts to the moon. Astronauts to the moon. Astronauts to the moon. Astronauts to the moon.